Right, probability notes. Probability is a number that represents the chance of a random event happening. Just watch the notation here, P of E. E is an event, like the probability of getting a head when you throw a coin, or the probability of selecting an ace from a pack. Probabilities can be a fraction or a decimal between 0 and 1. 0% and obviously 100% if we're absolutely certain it happens. Often we think of probabilities lying on a number line between 0 and 1. Probability of something happening is 0, it would be impossible. If a probability of something happening is 1, then we know it's absolutely certain that it's going to happen. In the middle, at 0.5, we use words like equally likely to happen, 50-50 chance, like getting a head when you throw a coin. Down this end, we tend to use words like unlikely, and up this end, words like very likely that an event will happen. So if the probability of an event is 0, it means the event is impossible, definitely won't happen. If the probability of an event equals 1, it means the event will definitely happen, certainly happen. And if the probability of an event is 0.5, it means 50% chance of the event happening. Right, so let's look at this word equally likely. We've sort of already discussed it. Some random situations involve outcomes that are all equally likely. For example, rolling a dice, the possible outcomes you could throw a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, a 5 or a 6. All of those outcomes are equally likely to happen. As long as the dice is fair, a fair dice, there are 6 possible outcomes. Throw a coin, you could get a head or a tail, realistically. 2 possible outcomes, they're equally likely. We usually say a 50-50 chance. Other examples we use are cards from a pack, rolling a ball from a lotto barrel. And the next part is just some words, some definitions. Sample space. The sample space is the complete set of all possible outcomes in an experiment, like up here. These are both sample spaces. We often use curly brackets to denote a set. NS means the number. Number of outcomes in the sample space. So that would be the number of possible outcomes. And N of E would be the number of successful outcomes. So for example, if we were talking about the probability of getting an even number when we roll a dice, there are 6 possible outcomes, and there would be 3 successful ones. That would be a 2, a 4 or a 6. 3 successful ones out of 6, and that's why probability of an even number is a half when you roll a dice. So here's the formula that define the probability. It's the number of successful outcomes over the number of possible outcomes, which is something you've grown up with using. Right, example number 1. We're rolling a dice, 6 equally likely outcomes. So the number of possible outcomes is 6. Probability of getting a 3 would be 1 out of 6. There's 1 chance out of the 6. An even number is a half, because there are 3 successful outcomes, and that would be a 2, a 4 or a 6. Probably a number less than 5. You have to be careful reading. Less than 5 would mean a 1, a 2, a 3 or a 4. So that would be 4 out of 6 possibilities. Simplify, always simplify your fractions, because there are 4 successful outcomes, and we could list them there. Right, onto a pack of cards. There are actually 52 cards. I hope you know about cards. There are 4 suits. We have diamonds, hearts, clubs, and spades. Each suit runs from 2 to 10. Hope you've played cards before. And then each suit has a jack, queen, king. And of course there's the ace. There's always a debate. Sometimes an ace can be 1 and sometimes it's above the king. It may pay to read the question carefully, or depending on the game. So that makes 52 altogether. 13 diamonds, 13 hearts, 13 clubs and 13 spades. So the probability of getting a heart, there are 13 out of 52, which equals a quarter. Obviously a quarter of the pack are hearts. We could have jumped straight to the quarter. Probability of a red card, well, the red cards are the diamonds and the hearts, so half the pack actually is red and half is black. Probability of getting a queen of spades, there's only one of those, one queen of spades out of all 52 cards. Example number 3. 10-cent coin and a 20-cent coin are tossed together. There are how many possible outcomes? Well, one way of listing possible outcomes is in a table. So for example, this might be the 10-cent and this might be the 20-cent. It doesn't actually matter. But what could happen is we could get a head on both, or a tail on both. We could get a head on this one and a tail on the other, or a tail and a head. So there are 4 possible outcomes. Probably of getting 2 heads, 1 out of the 4 possibilities. Probably of 1 head, 1 tail. It doesn't matter what order in this bracket here. So there are 2 ways out of the 4 possible outcomes. If we list the 4 possible outcomes, two out of 4, which is a half. This way of setting out you can also use for dice, for example, when they talk about throwing 2 dice. In the first dice, perhaps it's a red dice, you can get 1 to 6. On the green dice, you can get 1 to 6. Sometimes they talk about rolling the 2 dice and adding the numbers together, and that's a good way of working out all the possible choices.